freaked out, being like, I'm going to get electrocuted, chucked this hairdryer across the room. Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. Today we're going to be talking about my first ever time in Kentucky. I'm now back from my trip, which I had so much fun, and of course have lots of stories to talk to you about. But anyway, before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of the podcast, Red Post. Red Post is an equestrian and country store based in the UK, but they also ship all over the world. And the exciting news is that tickets are now available for my meet and greet. I'm actually going to be at Red Post on Saturday the 29th of June, so if you want to come along, go and check out the there's a little link in a lot of my socials, I've got a link tree, so all the information will be on there or on my website, thisesme.com. But anyway, let's begin. Let's have a little chat about what I've been up to. So if you didn't know, I've recently been in Kentucky for the Defender Kentucky 3-day event. Now, this is an event that I have been wanting to go for so many years. I actually originally planned to go in 2020, but obviously, there was a whole pandemic thing that happened. And then since after the pandemic, I've just always been so busy around that time with work and lots of different things. Like last year, I was doing a lot of my book tour, and then I feel like I've been here, there, and everywhere doing lots of different things. And Kentucky is just an event that I just haven't been round to going to until, I was going to say today, the other day. So I am a little bit jet lagged when filming this podcast because I did only get back yesterday. So hopefully it's not too all over the place. But if you're a listener of the podcast for a while, you will know that I just go here, there and everywhere. I have little stories that I just chirp in while I'm talking along. But anyway, let's get started. I do have a little notes app, as always, on my phone to just double check, because I thought actually I've noted down quite a few different culture shocks or culture kind of things that are different, which I know I talked about when I was in Florida recently, but there are a few more that I've remembered, or that maybe it's only in Kentucky, that kind of thing. Also, one thing that I do want to say is because actually at one of my meet and greets, a girl came up to me and she was like, in North Carolina, do not worry, our crosswalks, they do actually beep and make a noise when it's time to cross, because that was one thing that shocked me when I was in Florida actually, because they just didn't make any noise. But I can say in Kentucky, they did make a noise. It was quite funny because when you press the button to be like, yes, I would like to cross the road, please, it would go, wait. It always just made me jump, because obviously in the UK, ours don't do that. Ours just a little red light goes on to be like, yep, you've pressed your button. But anyway, so that was quite funny. So that is one. Another thing, sorry, I haven't even talked to you about our trip or anything like that. I'm just going straight into things that I found when I was out there. Another thing was taking the plates away really quickly. So in England, when we eat, normally our server or waiter or waitress, they don't take your plates away until everyone is done and everyone is finished. And they normally ask if everyone's done before they take your plates away. Because as someone who's British, it always feels rude. Because if you were in England and someone started taking your plates away without asking, or as soon as you'd finished eating, you would think, oh gosh, they want us out of here. They're about to close up shop. They just want to get us out as soon as possible. But in America, it's very different. They take your plates away, and I guess it's seen as you have a good server or a good waiter because they're always watching, they're always making sure if you finished your food. But especially if somebody else is still eating, that's kind of seen as maybe a little bit rude in England. I don't know, let me know which you prefer, because I don't know, I don't really mind. Also, one other thing that I always forget is that some restaurants or places, you have this it's almost like a game. You have this endless drink, especially if you order a soft drink, like a cola or a lemonade or that kind of thing, because me and my dad were eating and I literally just finished my drink, put it down, and this lady swooped in, gave me a whole fresh new drink. And I was like, I didn't order this, because I just forgot. I forgot that some places it's just a bottomless drink. And I was like, I didn't order this. And I was worried I was going to be charged extra for this drink that I didn't order. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot there's just this bottomless drink that you can get. What other things do we have? Okay, so some people are gonna totally get this, and some people are gonna be like, Esme, what are you on? This is bonkers. But I kept feeling like I was in a computer game when I was out there, because I was one of those kids. I grew up playing The Sims. I feel like I played The Sims 3 and The Sims 4, but The Sims 3 was like my childhood Sims game. Like, I started playing that when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13. I think I first got the game where it came with like a little DVD disc and you put it in our computer. Anyway, so I used to play that, and the bird noises that were on my Sims game sounded like the birds in Kentucky, and it was very strange. It really took me back, and I was like, every now and again there would be like, I don't know what this bird was. I feel like I should have, rang up some bird expert and be like, what noise? Or just somebody that was a local, be like, what noise is this bird? Because this bird is really taking me. I feel like I'm in The Sims. So it was actually my first time in Kentucky, and I think Kentucky is the state that I think is most similar to the UK in terms of like nature. It was very green. There were a lot of trees. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. Also, to be fair, we did go over there in April. So what other sort of things do I have? This was one thing that like always freaks me out, is being called ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it in an American accent, being called ma'am. Because over here in the UK, we do have, if somebody's like in the royal family, or a duke or duchess, or not a duke, if you're a duchess, you do get called mom, which I'll say in a British accent, mom. But we don't have that in England. So normally if somebody was referring to me, I would be called miss. So it made me feel kind of old being called ma'am. And that was one thing that was really weird, because like at some of my meet and greets, I'd be like, oh, do you want me to sign this for you? And some people would say, yes, ma'am. And like, that made me feel really weird. It made me feel like, I don't know, like I was like an old lady. I don't know, someone that they respected, which, you can just call me Esme. I'm just a girl. So that was weird. And I was thinking, could not think for the life of me. It took me for ages to think, what would somebody call a woman? Like, if you needed to tap like a woman on the shoulder in England and be like, oh, excuse me, instead of saying miss, like you've dropped something, because for a man you'd say sir, and I just couldn't think, and because obviously I'm young, I don't really get called that, but it would be madam. Madam is what they would call you, especially if like maybe you're on a flight and a flight attendant was like asking you something. It would be like, excuse me, madam, which sounds very posh and very fancy. But I don't know, I quite like the yes ma'am. It sounds like, I don't know if some people say it like in like a sarcastic kind of way, like a like a yes ma'am kind of thing, like to your bestie kind of, but I don't know. Or if it's like a respect thing, I don't know. That was one thing that I just could not get my head around, which is a little bit different. But yeah, they're all. The only other thing that I have down here is British privilege. I have such a weird like little way of like writing things in my notes app. But if you are British and you've been to America, you do get treated differently, in the sense where everyone's probably heard of pretty privilege, where if you're pretty, you get treated nicer. You might get given, I don't know, free things like a drink at a bar, I don't know, stuff like that. But in America, I think that there is definitely some sort of weird like British privilege, because maybe it's just my dad. My dad is one of those kind of people where if we're talking to any sort of server or waiter or someone like at the hotel desk, my dad will always end up just like chatting to them. So he'll like ask them about how their day is, like, especially if we're in a new area, like, is there anything fun to do? Like, I don't know, he's just a charmer. He just ends up chatting to everyone. And this lady was so lovely to us at the hotel in Kentucky, because she upgraded our room, which if you were just like in England and you were talking to another British person, we definitely would not have got the special treatment. We got our room upgraded. We had like a really nice view, and then she also gave us all of the free breakfast every morning. So we had these little passes, and she was just really lovely. So I don't know if it was because we were just like friendly to her, or if it was a British thing. But one thing I have found, this was actually quite a while ago, when I remember when we went to, I think it was maybe when we were in Colorado or Utah, we were just like at a local grocery store buying our groceries or some food or some snacks, and they gave us like a 20% discount because we were British, and we were like, we haven't done anything. I think the person might have said like, thank you for your service, which I guess maybe my great grandparents would have been in the war in like World War Two, yeah. But like my grandparents are all baby boomers, so like they weren't serving. They were in their nappies, in their buggies and stuff, or should I say, in their diapers and in their strollers. But anyway, there we go. So that is one thing that I feel like is a little bit different. Also, a lot of people mistake me for not being British. I either get asked if I'm Australian or South African or sometimes Irish as well. So there we go. But yeah, they're the little culture shocks that I have from Kentucky. But anyway, let's actually get into the trip. So I was there for the event, which I've been wanting to go to for ages, because back in the day, actually, before I did YouTube myself, there were actually a few like equestrian YouTubers, Instagrammers, whatever you want to call them. This is before the days of TikTok, and I actually watched like a few vlogs back in the day, or saw photos of them at Kentucky, and it's just somewhere that I've always wanted to go to. It just sounds like a cool event. Like obviously over here we have badminton and Burghley, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the differences between Kentucky versus the UK events that we have. First, I thought we would talk about location, because in England, our events tend to be at a very fancy, stately home, which is like a big kind of manor house and then the event tends to be like on the grounds. So it's normally somewhere just in the middle of nowhere, basically, especially trying to get into these events. I would always say if you do go, especially if it's your first time, get there early. I'm talking get there 7, 8. If you get there anywhere after maybe like 8:30 in the morning, you're going to just end up being in a queue, in cars, trying to get in for like 3-4 hours maybe. So get there at like 7 a.m, have your brekkie there, have your breakfast, have a little walk around. Some people camp there, so there is that option too. And also if you are trying to book accommodation, do it like a year in advance almost, because places do get booked up and places do get really pricey as well. Just because the way to get into these events, they're often a very small country lane. And I just always feel really bad for the people that live locally to these events, because those weekends, if they want to go out, you know, pick up some shopping, that weekend is not the weekend to do it, because they'll be able to maybe get out, but getting back in, like this, it's just a sea of cars, so get there early. When Kentucky, we just waltzed on in, easy. You know, it's off a freeway or a highway or whatever main roads are called in America, one of them. So it was very easy to get into. They have all the parking there, and also it's not muddy like Badminton and Burghley. Badminton last year was awful. There were some people that were stuck in their cars for I think days almost, or at least overnight, because they were just stuck in the mud and they had to get tractors to pull everyone out. Often badminton isn't like that, but it can be. It will be interesting to see what it's like this year, because we have had a lot of rain. So yeah, that is an interesting one. But also sometimes I always think badminton is either sleeting, snowing, freezing, raining, or it's proper. Make sure you have your sun cream on, factor 50, shorts, t-shirt, sunglasses, cap, try not to get burnt, absolutely boiling heat wave. So it's either one or the other. It'll be interesting to see what it is this year. But yes, so that's how I describe it. Kentucky was actually really weird, because when we first arrived, it was freezing. Like everyone had multiple coats and layers on. And then on our last day, I was walking around in a dress, sweating, with loads of sun cream on, trying to keep in the shade. So that was a different one. So it was kind of like both weathers in one. Obviously, I've only been 1 year, so this is my just first time opinion on the event. The other thing that I would describe is numbers. So obviously, Kentucky, I would say, is probably one of the biggest horse shows in the US that's like not racing, or definitely the biggest event in the USA, because it's their only 5-star. I say it like it's their only 5-star, like we're the only country that has 2 5-stars, and there is the Rolex Grand Slam, and there's only 3 in the Rolex Grand Slam. I think are there 5 5-stars, because there's also, oh no, maybe there's 6, because there's Pau in France, there's Le Moulin in Germany, and then there's also Adelaide in Australia. So there we go. They're all the big 5-star events if you wanted to give. I just gave them a little shout out. Anyway, moving on. So
5-star at Maryland, isn't there?
Is there a 5-star at Maryland? Oh, there's a 5-star at Maryland as well. But I feel like Kentucky is the biggest one. There is probably some more that I have maybe missed out. So I'm definitely more of a show jumper than an eventer. So do not. What's that one? Maryland. Okay, there is one at Maryland. There we go. Sorry, just need to do some fact checks there, guys, for you all. For y'all. That was one thing that there was the people at press at Kentucky kept trying to persuade me to say y'all. But I don't know, it didn't really fit with my British accent. But anyway, moving on. Numbers. So I think for badminton, the highest sort of numbers they've had cross country day is 300,000. Kentucky, they average cross country day around 30,000. So it goes to show the kind of difference in size of events. However, bigger doesn't necessarily always mean better, because I thought the vibe at Kentucky was so good, because at places like Badminton and Burghley, it is just rammed. It is heaving. There are so many people, especially cross country day, because, you know, that's the biggest day. It's the best day, personally. But there's a lot of people, and especially at the kind of go-to fences like the Vicarage V or the water jumps, or at Burghley we have the Leaf Pit or the Trout Hatchery. They're like certain jumps that are the ones that people want to go to, they want to go and see. And sometimes you do have to stand behind like a queue of 5 other people just to get a glimpse at a fence. When at Kentucky, yes, some certain fences, especially like the water jumps that everyone wants to see, it is a little bit busier, but you could definitely get a good view. So I would say if you're a UK person, you love your badminton and your Burghley, and you want to go to a different event that's still, you know, 5-star standard riding, but you want to have a better view, or you want to go to somewhere a little bit different, Kentucky is your one. I really enjoyed it. I love cross country day, like walking around. You had a good view of all the fences, really. There wasn't really anywhere you had just this one water fence that was right next to the stadium. Also, they have a full-on stadium, which is very cool. Like, because in the UK, as I said before, it's normally just at some fancy manor house, and all of the seating and everything, like we call it seating. You guys in America call it bleachers. Is that it? Like, I remember hearing like Taylor Swift songs and hearing like bleachers, and I was like, what on earth is a bleacher? It sounds like some sort of like cleaning fluid. Anyway, so there we go. Or like just American high school TV shows be like, oh, meet you by the bleachers, and I'm like, what is that? Like the supply cupboard? Anyway, so yeah, they have like a full-on stadium with an arena that's there all the time. To be fair, Aachen, they have a full-on stadium, and they do have an event, but that is a 4-star. Aachen is definitely one of my favourite shows, though, if you do get the chance to go there in Germany, which is very cool, because they have everything. They have all the things. But no, yes, sorry, back to Kentucky. But yeah, they have a full-on stadium. We don't have that there. It's literally just some seating that's put on some grass, and then at the end of the day, it's all taken away. One thing also, because obviously while I was there, I was working with a lot of my brands, a lot of my sponsors. So Lemieux were there, Fairfax and Favour were there, Voltaire Design. There was also Young Rider as well in Horse Illustrated, and they do my merch, which I'm actually currently wearing. I've got my USA and Canada merch on, and there was also Charles Owen as well, so where I did some meet and greets at, so that was very cool. Anyway, what was I about to get? The brands. Yes, sorry. So I talked to a lot of the people that I'm friends with that were actually from the UK, but they were working over there for the event. And one thing that you guys don't do in America is signage above kind of the stands. So if you go to like a UK event or show, a lot of the time where all the like trade stands are, you have like a big old sign at the front that will say like Fairfax and Favour, and then maybe like the letters or the numbers of what trade stand they are. But you guys don't have that there. So all of my sponsors were like trying to do their like makeshift like signs. And to be fair, a lot of them had flags as well, which I feel like is a big thing also in the UK. Because when you're walking around, especially somewhere as big as Badminton and Burghley, you're just like trying to find a certain trade stand. It can be difficult. So there wasn't as much shopping at Kentucky. Like all the Americans would be like, girl, how are you saying Kentucky is small? But if you go to Badminton and Burghley, you will know that they are next level. So yeah, I'd say the shopping, I'm trying to compare it to a UK event. I would say the shopping at Kentucky was probably about the same size as the shopping at Hicks did, maybe when the Royal is on or when the Nations Cup used to be on, so the bigger Hicks did. I'd say that's probably size-wise the amount of trade stands, which I'd say like it's definitely one of the like smaller shows here in the UK. But anyway, that is my size comparison. But they do have a big indoor barn, which gave me Your Horse Live vibes, but the difference was there were lots of like really fancy stands and things in this barn, when Your Horse Live tends to be more of a show where there's a lot of like sale items or a lot of brands at the end of their stock. They try to sell stuff off. So Your Horse Live is a good show to go to for like Christmas shopping if you want to get some discounts. I'm really doing just like an ad for all the events. Anyway, I'm trying to compare them all together for people who have maybe been to one or the other, so they can kind of like see the difference between them. But anyway, sorry, back to Kentucky. So we were there for dressage day. So we arrived. Let's talk about the journey, because I was actually supposed to fly out on the Wednesday, but had is it this? No, it's next week. I have a top secret thing on one of the days, and it was supposed to be on the Wednesday of Kentucky, but it's now on the Thursday of badminton. So it's been changed, and I cannot wait to tell you about it, but I am not allowed to tell you because it's very hush-hush, top secret. But yeah, I'm so excited to tell you all about it on the podcast in a few weeks' time. But anyway, so we had to change our flights when I found out that I was invited to this thing. And then just after we spent this money to change the flights, it got changed again. So we did have one kind of like less day, but it was like the Thursday. It's always the quiet day. Like there's a little bit of dressage on, but it's not like the 5-star or anything like that. So it is quite fun though to go and do like shopping on the earlier days and have a little walk around when it's a bit quieter. But anyway, so we had the like weirdest journey there. So we flew from Heathrow to New York, and then we got a plane from New York to Ohio, and then so first time in Ohio as well, and then we got a rental car from Ohio and drove to Kentucky. So there we go. That was our journey. We were staying in Lexington, if you didn't know. Now, if you, I was actually talking to a guy there who was from Kentucky, and he was like proper, American born and bred. And he was really interested to see what our UK perspective of Kentucky is, because before I didn't really realize that it was a southern state. And he was talking to me and like, when you think of Kentucky, what do you think of? And honestly, I feel like if you ask most people like in the UK what you think of when you think of Kentucky, you'd probably say KFC or Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I said that, and then I also said obviously like horses, like it's a very kind of like horse kind of area. And when we flew into Ohio, I thought it was going to be like more of a city in Cincinnati. That's it. That's what we flew into. But actually, as we were flying in, it was just like lots of little farms, lots of little red barns that you can kind of imagine, like very kind of picturesque American style, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I didn't realize that it gave me kind of a little bit more kind of like Texas vibes, in the sense that I kind of didn't really realize that it was a southern state. And actually, while we were there, we had one extra day while we were in Lexington before we flew back home. So actually, I really enjoyed that day because I'm a little bit of a history nerd. I love anything like history, culture, that kind of stuff. So we had a little walk around Lexington. We looked at loads of cool stuff, and we actually went in the house of Mary Todd, who was President, let me get this right, 'cause I don't want to was Lincoln. Does he have a first name? Abraham, that's it. Sorry, all of my American followers are going to be like, girl, how do you not know his name? Anyway, sorry, President Lincoln's wife. And to be fair, in the UK, we don't really learn much about American history. Obviously, in the US, you guys learn a lot about that. So it was really interesting for me as a Brit to learn a little bit more about the Civil War, all of the kind of stuff between the North and the South and the divide between that. And so anyway, we looked around her house, and that was really interesting, and got chatting to some history people in the house that was talking all about that. And it's weird because when you really think about it, like that wasn't actually that long ago when you think about like 100, 200 years ago. Wasn't that long ago, and how different things are now. So that was a little bit wild, looking through all of that and hearing about all the stories and how we've kind of moved on in society, but also how there are some things today that we probably do need to change. But anyway, let's not get into the deep stuff. But that I found that really interesting, because I was that kid. If you are British, you'll know this show, or if you're my age anyway. If not, you're gonna be like, girl, what you on about? But I loved watching Horrible Histories when I was younger. If you don't know what Horrible Histories is, I don't know if you'll be able to watch it. If you're from a different country, you might be able to watch it on YouTube. But it was basically like the history, but they made it really fun for kids. And I say for kids, I would literally still watch it now. Like, it's not like one of those things where it's like proper babyish. Like, I would still watch it now and enjoy it. Like, it's funny. But yeah, if you don't, go onto BBC iPlayer if you are British and watch Horrible Histories, because I used to watch that all the time on CBBC, and that was one of my favourite shows. So I'm trying to think of what history we learnt about when I was at school. We learnt a lot about World War One, World War Two, a lot about World War Two actually, because we learnt about that in primary and secondary school. We learned a lot about the Tudors and Henry VIII, probably quite a bit about like the War of the Roses. We learned a lot about like ancient Greece as well. That was quite interesting. The Romans, we did a lot on the Romans. Fire of London, did a lot on that. I'm trying to think what else we learned about, but we did learn about history and lots of other different things. I'd say they're the things that I remember the most when it comes to history. To be fair, when it came to GCSEs, which like the exams you do at 16 in the UK, I decided not to do history as my options, because as somebody who is dyslexic, writing a lot of essays was not my forte. It was not my favourite thing, although I did really enjoy English literature and language, because I enjoyed like stories, creative stuff. Although creative writing, that's more language, isn't? Yes, no. Literature is when you learn about other people's stories, isn't it? There we go. So I promise I'm only 22. I wasn't in school that long ago. But anyway, whenever I go to foreign countries, I always love learning about the history behind them and the culture and that kind of stuff. So that was really interesting. Back to Kentucky. So yeah, that was the event. That was pretty much it. I did loads of meet and greets there. I was actually doing a lot of work for Clip My Horse TV as well. So if you miss Kentucky and want to see what it's all about, the live stream probably is still available. So there's a little link in my social bios if you want to click on that for 20% off. Doing a little ad bit here. Sorry, it is my job. Thought I'd just let you know in case you wanted to watch it. Anyway, I do actually have another story which could probably be under culture shocks, but that is hair dryers. You guys have plug sockets in your bathrooms. Now, I just obviously had a shower, washed my hair while I was over there, and used the little plug socket for the hairdryer in the bathroom. Now, I forgot that I had it plugged in, so when I was washing my face the other night, I accidentally knocked the hairdryer almost into the sink of water. Obviously, freaked out, being like, I'm going to get electrocuted. Chucked this hairdryer across the room. So anyway, I forgot about this hairdryer. I forgot that I chucked it there. Also, can I just say, at these events, like I was jet lagged. So 9 o'clock in the evening, I'm done. I'm dusted. I'm ready for bed. I am functioning on very little sleep. And also after 4 hours of meet and greets each day, I was also very exhausted. Also, just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that came to my meet and greets. It was so lovely to meet you all. You were so lovely. And a lot of you sent me like lots of little cards and gifts and things. So thank you. That was really, really sweet. You really shouldn't have. But anyway, back to the story. So I'd kind of accidentally set myself this hairdryer booby trap. So, you know, in the middle of the night, as you do, needed to go to the toilet. So went to the toilet and forgot this hairdryer was there. And American plugs, they are spiky. I accidentally stepped on this hairdryer in the middle of the night, and when I tell you, ooh, it was worse than stepping on Lego. That is for sure. So that's a little reminder. If you do go to America, do not leave your hairdryer, or just in general, do not leave your hairdryers in the middle of the hallway. There we go. That was a mistake learned. Also, the other thing that was quite interesting was, so we were staying in a hotel in Lexington that was actually next to the big stadium there. Now, Thursday night, super chill. Friday night, however, we came back to the event and we were like, or to the hotel after the event and were like, what is going on? Because the hotel was taken over by all of these people because there was a Billy Strings concert. Now, I hadn't really heard of Billy Strings, although did look at I listened to a little bit of country. I dabble in a bit of country. I'm more of a folk girl myself personally, more of a Noah Khan kind of gal. But anyway, he does have Billy Strings, a song with Luke Combs, or Luke Coombe. However, I apologise to him if I pronounce his surname wrong. Anyway, so, you know, he's probably up there. But oh my gosh, there were so many people and it was wild. It was like chaos. We literally like came back to the car park, expected it to be like it was the night before, super chill. And there were like police cars everywhere. And we were like, what is going on? Like the hotel bar, there was like a queue going out the door. We were like, oh my goodness. And anyway, so the Friday night and the Saturday night in that hotel, it was wild. There were people coming back into the room at like 5 a.m. in the morning, you know, running up and down the corridor screaming. So that was a little bit different. That was a little bit, you know, luckily I was so tired I slept through it every evening. My dad, however, he apparently got woken up quite a bit. So there we go. Maybe don't stay in the hotel next to a stadium if you are staying at a weekend. But apart from that, the hotel was really nice. It was clean, did the job, had a nice view. The lady in there was really nice and gave us our free breakfast and room upgrade. Anyway, back to the event at Kentucky. I just want to say also a huge thank you again to everyone that turned up, because at first I was thinking like this is one of my I did a few meet and greets in Florida, but I was like, this is one of my like first meet and greets in the US. Like I know that Kentucky is like a little bit far away from a lot of places, and I was like, are people gonna come? But oh my goodness, you guys, you turned up, because my first meet and greet was at the Lemure stand, and oh my goodness, that was on cross country day as well. The queue went on for ages, and I know that quite a few of you did have to get turned away and be like, look, she's doing another meet and greet in the afternoon later on, so come to that one. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who came. Also, the amount of you that have travelled so far as well to come, and like a lot of you said it was your first ever time at Kentucky too, or at the event, so that was very cool. I know that some of you drove from Canada, some of you drove from like states the other side of the country, some of you guys flew in, so yeah, thank you so much to everyone who came. I really hope you all had a brilliant weekend like I did, and yeah, that was wild. And then on the Sunday, which was show jumping day, or you guys actually, you call it stadium, which again was like a little bit of a culture shock, a little bit different, like in eventing just in general, because I do have a few friends that do eventing in the US and they call show jumping stadium in eventing, which I thought was quite cool. I guess in the UK you wouldn't really call it stadium at all, because even like our big events, as I said before, there is no stadium, let alone, you know, your little ones that do like 80s and 90s and 100s. But yeah, so there we go. What else did I want to talk about that was different? Oh, the competition. I thought I'd talk about, I mean, you probably would have heard by now, unless you're saving the live stream for later, who won. But I'm going to say the spoiler of who won Kentucky this year, so this is your chance to go and watch the live stream before, if you want. But, you know, us Brits, we came out in full force at Kentucky, because the kind of like top three for a lot of the event was Tom McEwen. He did very well in dressage. So did Yasmin Ingham. I'm so chill with these eventers. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, Yaz, oh yeah, Tom and Ollie. Like, especially like that's one thing that I find really funny. I remember at the Royal Windsor Horse Show last year, especially like in the top 5-star like show jumping, they'll be like, all right, Joe, you're next in. Like I know at like proper events, or even just like at Pony Club events, they'll like say your full name, like you're up next, or number, blah blah blah, whatever number you are. But yeah, at these top events, like it's always the same people at each place. They're like, oh yeah, you're next in, like just your first name. So I find that quite funny. But Oliver Townend won. I've got to say though, his show jumping or stadium, because I was there watching all of them, like especially like down to the line. It was very much like which Brit is going to win. I mean, they could have all had like multiple polls and someone else could have won, but you know, I was rooting for Team UK. But no, anyway, I gotta say, his show jumping round was top class. Like that horse looked like it was going around a little jump of like 60 centimeter fences, like cleared them so easily. Such a shame that Yaz had and Tom both had a pole. But anyway, yeah, congratulations to those 3 Brits in the top 3. But yeah, anyway, I think this year, eventing wise, is going to be quite quiet, or just at shows in general, because I know a lot of people are saving their horses for the Olympics, because it is an Olympic year. We've got Paris 2024, which a lot of people have asked me if I'm going to. I'm not going to, unfortunately, because with the Olympics, they are very strict on filming. I was actually supposed to go to Tokyo, but then obviously, you know, it would have been a very expensive trip to not really film much, and then also pandemic as well, so that was all very strict and stuff, so it wouldn't have been the best trip, so we decided not to. But yeah, Paris, not going to, unfortunately. I'll probably definitely watch it on the telly though, so there we go. But yeah, a lot of people are saving their horses for Paris, so I think this year it's going to be a very quiet badminton, I'm going to say. I think not many people are going to enter, although some people using badminton as a practice before the Olympics, so it depends on what sort of rider you are, what you think your horse is like. To be fair, there are a lot of riders out there who do actually have multiple horses. Like, some people have their Kentucky horse, some people have their badminton horse, some people have their Olympic horse, so it'll be interesting to see who goes, who doesn't, what people want to do. So yeah, one to look out for. Oh my gosh, I've just remembered, I do have this one story, which probably sounds a little bit silly, but when I work at these events and shows and places, I often work in the media centre, where we can like dump our cameras and laptop, can sit there and do a bit of editing. Sometimes that's where I'll sit and have my lunch, bit of coffee, I don't know, that kind of stuff. And often that's also where they have all the press events. So after the riders have ridden, they go there and they do interviews, so it's quite interesting to listen to that. And obviously there's all the press people there that are like writing up what they say and filming it, and I don't know, stuff like that. But anyway, while I was in the media centre one day, this fire alarm went off. Now, when I tell you, American fire alarms sound different to UK fire alarms, so I wasn't sure if this was a fire alarm or if this was some sort of like natural disaster warning, because the UK is a very pathetic country. Like, we don't have any dangerous animals, we don't really have much dangerous weather. Like, we do get the occasional like flooding and storms and things, but you guys have full-on tornadoes that will rip apart like towns and cities and things, which, you know, we don't have much things like that. So at first I was like, oh my gosh, is this like a natural disaster warning? Like, what is happening? Because yeah, your guys' alarms sound different to UK ones, and it tell you what, it did sound kind of a bit like the alarm in like The Purge, or like some sort of horror film kind of thing like that. So, and also, if you didn't know, I am a very jumpy person. Like, even if somebody like pops a champagne bottle, I need like pre-warning, if not I will scream, and often even if I do know it's going to pop, I will still jump. So I was like, what is going on? It was very loud. Luckily it was a false alarm. There was no fire or natural disaster or anything like that. It was a fire alarm, by the way. So yeah, there we go. That's my last little anecdote for you all. That was my trip to Kentucky. I had so much fun. I'm kind of sad now because I've done all my US trips and I probably won't be going back for a little while now. So I've got all my European and UK shows and trips coming up though. So actually I'm tell you what, I'm quite excited to not be going on a plane for a while, because I've had a lot of jet lag recently. I've done a lot of sleeping uncomfortably on a plane, so there we go. Anyway, also one thing that I have noticed about jet lag, because, you know, I've done 2 US trips this year, is that the way home I always manage to get to sleep okay, but I do this thing where I just wake up in the middle of the night for an hour. Like last night, woke up in the middle of the night for an hour, and then went back to sleep again, and then I woke up all right 7 o'clock this morning. Bit of a lion, but not too bad, you know. Decent time to wake up. Yeah, there we go. That's my jet lag story. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to finish it off there. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the brands and to Kentucky and Clip My Horse and all the people that I worked with that made it possible for me to go out to Kentucky. I had the best time and you guys are all so lovely again. So thank you again to everyone who came to my meet and greets. Before we finish, I want to say another huge thank you to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye!